Hey, it's Mama Dion. This is my husband, Baba Addison. All right. And so welcome and thank you for joining us on our podcast. Podcast is here to empower families and individuals on their parenting journey. In our last podcast, which was part one of this podcast, we discussed different things. We discussed part one.
Right. Part one was defining behavior.
Yep.
Because discipline was basically a tool that you use to develop certain behaviors within your child that you think they need to understand in order for them to have life success.
Correct. And we discussed how it was a complete system. Discipline is a complete system.
It's a complete system.
Right. And so for us, it's 4 parts. And so we talked about part one.
Defining the behavior.
Yeah. I should say step 1. Step 2,
routining it,
and protocols.
Making sure that you model it so the child knows exactly what's being expected of them.
Correct. And so if you haven't seen it, go back and see part 1, right? Because today we're going to get into part 2.
Right. But I do want to say thank you to all the feedback that we received from the first video. People really enjoyed it. And also we got some interesting questions that people want us to do future videos.
Yes.
With specific topics. So we appreciate your feedback and keep the feedback coming. Keep your comments coming.
Yes.
We really enjoyed it.
Yes. Thank you. So we're going to jump right in.
Sure. We can jump right in.
Yeah. We'll jump right into what we say is step 3, right? And so step 3 is where we talk about positive reinforcement. And consequences.
Right.
And consequences. And so this is a tricky one. And if most people ask me kind of where people kind of lose their way and in discipline, it will probably be here. Because this is where you really have to reinforce what you're talking about, right? You got to when you set those protocols for the child, this is the step where your follow through and execution of your protocols is very important. Very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is where children can figure out, that they have some wiggle room in your discipline system. This is where, if you're not careful, you can create protocols, things that you're really not going to execute. You got to really take your time and make sure you're saying things that you can execute, because this is very, very important. This is probably the most important step in the discipline.
And it's also system. The hardest.
It's the hardest. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And we mentioned in the first one that if you truly love your children, like all of us do, right? This is where you really have to step up, and make sure that follow through is being implemented, for the true love of your child, and for their future. So you want to elaborate on the consequences and the positive reinforcement?
Well, positive reinforcement. So any behavior that you're trying to develop, you do have to reinforce the behavior. Okay. Right. So I just want to quickly do a quick synopsis, right? The first one is defining behavior. So what behavior you want to develop in your child. The second one is obviously modeling that behavior, making sure your child understands exactly what's being expected of them, because a lot of times, parents skip the second step. They don't define it for them. And then of course, when in their mind, the child has violated that, the child is kind of, punished, I guess, for lack of a better word, when we haven't established truly what is expected, the expectations.
Correct.
Because most children are very intelligent. If you have the expectations set, they typically will follow the expectations. So today we're talking about, we call it positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement has basically 2 expressions. One expression is what we call repercussions and rewards. We don't say punishment because punishment has a negative connotation, but you're positively reinforcing the behaviors that you set.
Correct.
You can only get to this point when you have done 1 and 2.
Correct.
If you haven't done 1, if you haven't done 1, nor have you done 2, then you cannot do 3 and 4. And that's wrong. It's wrong for you to do 3 and 4 when you haven't done 1 and 2. And I'll be honest, if you do 3 and 4 without 1 and 2, that's kind of abuse. I'm gonna keep it real. You know what I'm saying? And we can discuss that. We can discuss that as well, because when we haven't defined right? Perfect example. Child is eating in the living room. You got new carpet. Child walks across the carpet, trips and falls, drops the red Kool-Aid on your carpet, and that child gets punished.
Yeah.
Well, did you define, did you model, did you confirm that you told the child you didn't want them in the
Correct.
room, eating in that room?
Correct.
And so just because you're upset because your carpet is stained doesn't mean that you have the right to apply that to your child when you haven't clearly defined that as a behavior.
Right.
Clearly set the routine and set the expectations.
Right.
And now you can get to 3 and 4. So anyway.
Correct. That reminds me of when parents say sometimes, I used to hear it in my childhood, and kind of fast forward to 2026, right? But parents will say, you should know better. Well, no, my parents, I knew better because they had already clearly defined out all the protocols and the expectations. But when you hear parents say you should know better to a child when they're doing something, they wouldn't know better if you did not outline it for them.
That comes up more these days in the younger parenting.
Yes.
And you hear it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we run a school. We have a school where we deal with parents, beautiful parents, great parents. And hello to all my parents out there.
Yes.
But when you're walking around in the store or whatever, and you're hearing parents engage kids, and it's like, you haven't done 1 and 2, so you can't get to the 3 and 4. Right. You know what I mean? And so, they don't know.
Yep. No,
just because you know, don't mean they know. That's why you are the adult.
Correct.
And you know more. That's why the child is brought in your life as an infant and put in a state of complete dependence.
Yes.
So that you can develop and rear them.
Yes.
So they don't know. That's why they're partnered with you.
Correct. Yeah.
And so, but yeah, you're absolutely correct. We see that all the time with our children, get to, step 3 is the most used part of parenting, because people use that regardless of whether they got 1 and 2, I mean, it goes to extremes, you know what I'm saying? Where you're seeing a kid in the store getting slapped across the room because mom is fed up, dad is fed up. And in my mind, when I see that, I go, man, did you do 1 and 2? Because if you haven't done 1 and 2, that's really extreme. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. You know what I'm saying? And so
be looked at as child abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. Or and what ends up happening is you find yourself having to continuously repeat repercussions. Yeah. So you have to repeat it. So, some people still use, spankings or whatever. But if you spank a child 10 times a year, that's too much, because most children are intelligent. If you do 1 and 2, you're not going to have to do that. You know what I'm saying? But you hear people almost sometimes bragging about it. And that's one of the reasons why we want to come here, because we want to give people options of how to discipline and rear their kids so that, they don't have to necessarily go through that. But anyway, so we're here to do positive reinforcement. And we said positive reinforcement has 2 arms, repercussions and rewards. Yes. We have to now establish the behavior, and you're not going to establish that behavior that you're trying to set unless you have it backed by repercussions and rewards. Correct. And so repercussions is the one that nobody likes to do, or people overdo it. But repercussions is basically establishing a outcome, something that happens as a result of the child not executing what you have properly communicated and properly got understanding and buy-in from the child. Yes. So when our parents would say to us, do you understand exactly what I'm telling you? Correct. That was getting clear communication, making sure it's understood, because we do have to do that because they are children, right? Correct. So when your parents said, hey, if you're not back in by 9 p.m., this is what's going to happen. Do you understand what's being asked of you? They actually want to make sure they get buy-in from that, right? That's right. So the repercussions is something that you have to now establish to as an execution, so to speak, when the child violates or doesn't do what you clearly communicated to them to do. That's correct. What you clearly told them to do in step 2. That's right. You modeled it and you got buy-in. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. All right. And so now, how do you establish what repercussion works? That's where the parenting comes in. Because I'll be honest with you. There are some children out here that if you into whoopings, they will eat a whooping. There's some kids that does not work. Then some kids you can merely mention whooping and they run and hide or whatever. That's all you got to do. That was me. I think that was me too. I didn't push the boundaries with my dad. My dad was strong enough to pull a car, wrap a chain around his neck and pull a car. That's one of the things when we would go out to the beach, he would show off And so I was not messing with him. So when he said whatever it was, that's what it was. You know what I mean? So once it was clearly communicated, we didn't get into all that. But
right. And my dad was a policeman. So, just seeing him walking around with his uniform around the house
right.
and knowing the personality of a policeman, it's a firm, stern.
Right.
And my dad was the guy that when he spoke, you listen. And he was very good with follow through. So if he said X was going to happen, it was going to happen.
Right.
So I was a very logical kid.
Right.
And no, I'm not trying to get a spanking because he said we can't do this. So
some kids are that way.
Yeah.
You spell it out. That's it. Then you got some kids that are going to rebel, but you got to find that punishment might not work.
Right.
Maybe, for our two sons, it was quite interesting. My oldest son, that's how he was. It wasn't, but once you took a toy or whatever he enjoyed away, that was his thing. So, okay, so that's what we implemented as a repercussion.
Correct.
Towards behavior that he didn't manifest in the way that we explained properly to him.
Right.
And so it could be taking away an iPad. It could be staying indoors. The indoors thing doesn't work anymore because when we were young, we stayed outside. So so parents could actually use that as a punishment. But now, you can't even use.
It's just devices. Take that away.
What was the term for that? It's not punishment when you were. I'm losing my train of thought. When you were not able to go outside.
When you were not able to go outside.
You're on punishment, but there's another word for it. Anyway, okay, let's keep it moving.
It's not coming to me.
Yeah, but anyway, you didn't want that one when we were growing up because we spent a lot of time outside playing sports, doing whatever. But these days, children are like, whatever. I got my iPad and I got my video game, right?
So you got to take that away.
So as a parent, that's your job, so to speak, is figuring out what works for that child.
For that child, because all of them different.
All of them different. You got more than one child. You're not one is gonna not be the same as the other.
And don't compare them because they different.
No, they're
parents
different.
get into the mistake of trying to compare them. And with this child, all I had to say was, they different.
Right.
So you cannot do that. You got to figure it out, like he's saying. And it is. I've heard people say it is kind of like a trial and error. It is until you figure out the child. Once you figure out their personality, what works for them, you got to stick with that.
Right.
Stick with that.
Oh, you know what works for that child because that's why the child was sent to you. The child was sent to you for that very reason. So it's not going to take you long to figure out that child and what works for them because that's why that child chose you. But anyway, so repercussions, meaning things that you do to positively reinforce the behavior that you want. And there has to be repercussions. Most kids under the age of 28 is what psychology says are dominated by the reptilian brain.
Correct.
So a lot of times parents would try to use a lot of communication and I told you not to do that. Not to do that. Right. And that's just not how they manifest. They're dominated by the reptilian brain, which is typically responds to pain, pleasure. That's just how that brain works. And so you have to reinforce the behaviors and not just going to say that simply because you said it. Right. Right. So that's it. So repercussions is one. So establishing, I don't like using the word punishment, but some type of loss in the child's mind that's going to perpetuate them knowing that you mean business about this particular behavior and your expectations are set. And each time this happens, this repercussion is going to manifest.
I like to call it a level of understanding.
You got to get a level of understanding, and the child. You got to get on the child's level of understanding.
Yeah, no, you got to. Once you figure out what it is, they start to understand.
Right.
A parent mean business.
Right.
And if you don't figure out what that is, then they continue to manipulate, figure out the wiggle room.
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation.
Play emotions,
right.
all of those different things. So
that's another thing. I'm glad you led us back into that. Maybe, and what she's saying is that whatever repercussion that you establish, you have to be clear that you're going to be able to hold yourself accountable to that. So if you fly off the handle, not thinking things through, before you come up with the repercussions, you got to take time to think it through.
Yeah.
Because if you said something like, you're grounded for 2 weeks. Grounded was the word I'm looking at.
Oh, yeah.
Grounded. But anyway, you're grounded for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, is that something you're going to be able to hold them to?
Right.
Because the worst thing you can do is say that you're going to do something, but don't follow through with it.
Oh, my goodness.
Because now the child knows they have wiggle room.
Yes.
And so.
Yeah. My mom, hey, mom and dad, my mom's probably watching. She commented on, she called me about the last video, but what you just said is something. My dad, if he had grounded us for 2 weeks, it would have been 2 weeks. If mom had grounded us for 2 weeks, it'd have been probably 2 days. 2 days, because mama couldn't hold, it was that thing like, just give the girls kind of what they want. 2 days isn't long enough. 2 weeks is too long, but my dad meant business. And so, but when that happens, and my mom, I want to shout out to my mom, she did a phenomenal job in her parenting too. But when that happens, the children start to see, like we're talking about, that wiggle room. And then they kind of play the parents against each other, right?
Well, that's a whole other conversation about parents playing, but they do.
Yeah.
They absolutely do.
Yeah. And so just kind of keep that in mind.
Right. So you don't want to set a repercussion that you're not going to be able to execute.
You have to execute it.
That means you can't just fly off the handle and say ABC. You got to think it through, take your time, so that when you say this is what it is, this is what it is, the child cannot have any input into this process. Mm-hmm. And so if the child is coming to you asking for hugs or whatever, if they're going through a process, you're going to have to hold back from that. Now, here's a controversial statement that is also very important in this process. It's just coming to me. Once you set a repercussion, it's not business as usual when you walk away.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're having to come in and impose a repercussion, you make sure that you mean business. The child understands it's serious. Mm-hmm. So you will never have to come back to this. See, the goal of repercussions is not to have to repeat them.
Correct.
And let me say that again. Mm-hmm. The goal of setting repercussions is to not have to repeat this. You want to establish in the child the behavior that you want, so you won't have to come back here. So a lot of times I'll talk to some parents that we're coaching or whatever, and we'll talk to them the next day, and I hear the kid in the background playing, having a good time. Right. I say, is that your son in the background playing? And they go, yeah. I'll go, didn't you just punish him for something? Well, yeah. Well, it's not fun times.
Right. And they're kind of like, whoa, okay, I didn't know that. Well, no. What we call it, you got to keep the fire up.
You got to keep the fire up. So, because I don't want to have to come back here.
I don't want to have to come back here.
When I was growing up, when you got in trouble like that and you got a punishment and you went to your mother for a hug, she's like, boy, what you talking about hugging me for? Acting like a fool out there in the streets. You better sit down before you get another whooping.
That's right. Yeah.
Coming in here hugging. Boy, go in there and sit down. Don't even talk to me until you get yourself together.
Right. I'll hug you after this punishment over.
Right. Yeah, right. After the process is over, that's when you get a hug. And we look at that, but that's intelligence. Like, I don't want to have to come back here. So I need to stoke the fire up. So if you set a repercussion, you implement a repercussion, it's not playtime. Mm-mm. They got to make sure that you mean business. So whatever you set has to re-engineer their life for a couple days.
Right. Get them to understand.
So that you understand, you mean business. Especially if you're certain repercussions you're not going to do.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
So you have to stay in that space. And sometimes through the concept of affection, we positively reinforce negative behaviors out of the concept of love. Giving hugs at the inopportune time, right? Nurturing when it's not time for nurturing, right? Because the child is going to try to manipulate you through the nurturing. Oh, mommy, I love you. Hey, go to your room.
I love you too.
I love you too, but go to your room.
Right.
And you're in your room for a couple days, like I said, and don't come back out, So
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, so that's the repercussion aspect of it. It is the most it's the toughest one to execute, but it's the one that you have to execute because that's how kids process things. Right. You have to back up what you're going to say.
And it's important to also note that this is the time that the kids have the opportunity to reflect on their behavior. What got them there, right?
You're not going to put them in that space of reflection. And
if you don't follow through and hold to what you're saying you're going to do.
Absolutely. You're not going to put them in that. And that's another thing. This might be too deep. And I know I've been accused of this before, but we're always battling ego. Ego is always trying to get us to
do what we want to do.
Do what we want to do, which may be in violation of what the rules require or whatever.
Correct.
And so if you impose repercussions, and that establishes that within the mind of the child now has to battle their ego,
right.
which is what you want, because they're going to go up against that very thing within them that's telling them to vow to do something that they know is incorrect.
Right.
And once the kid is able to win that battle, and kids are, they 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 1-year-old, 13-year-old, they win that battle. Now you have them managing themselves. You don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, correct.
Now they have self-restraint.
Correct.
And that's what you want to eventually get to. Because you got to think about it this way. If you don't establish this and now, when they go out at 16, 17, 18 into this world with all the things that's going to be thrown at them right now, and they don't have self-restraint, we've allowed them to develop a relationship with their ego where whatever the ego says goes, and whatever idea is in there, we're setting these kids up for some drastic failure.
We definitely are. Definitely are. Yep. And, you know, because we're here to discuss, to help people on their parenting journey, wherever you are. You know, some people have one child, some people have 5, 4, 3. Some people are doing it themselves. Some people have a tribe around them, family around them to support them. Reach out to people to get some guidance in this area, you know, because we use the example of 2 weeks, but, you know, most of y'all or some people probably can't do a 2-week punishment. So I want to be clear. We were just using that as an example. Maybe 2 days might be good enough.
Yeah, that wasn't a hard rule. So we're just using an example.
Use an example. You know, 2 days may be good for you. A week may be good for you. So, you know, but talk to other people, you know, that's raised children, you know, and done it pretty successfully, you know. And so talk to them and try to get some guidance from them too, or reach out to us too. You could do that too, you know.
Right.
So just want to clear that up, that it could
be. We do parenting coaching, just
yes,
FYI.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yep. But anyway, that's the process, you know. It's like sometimes we, through the concept of affection, we positively reinforce. And then on top of that, if you're a single parent, you want to try your best to, so if you're a woman, you want to try your best to get some help from uncles or whatever, allow them to come in and help out. And if you're a man, you want to try to get some help from aunties, whatever. You know, you want that cross-pollination to take place.
Yeah.
And
have a good balance.
You want to also understand the need for it. And so that's a whole nother conversation. We can get into it.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's the first one is not punishment, repercussions.
Yeah.
And then the second one is positive reinforcement.
Rewards.
When they're acting the way they need to act, that's one. Now, one thing about my dad, even though he was a strict disciplinarian and he didn't have a problem taking it to whatever level it needs to be taken, I remember one of the behaviors, I didn't like spinach. I didn't like vegetables. And so my dad would sit there at the table with a belt and go make me go through the process of eating vegetables. And that sounds hard, but I truly appreciate him doing that for me. I really do. And so so he was a very strong disciplinarian. But when you did good, when you followed everything, he was the champion of positive reinforcement. And so that's something that, you know, he was very good at. Like, okay, when you did it the right way, when you acted the right way, and when you guys, we felt it. We got the love. We were bought things. He took us out for things. He let us know that we did well. He was a champion for you at that moment. So
that's awesome.
That's another aspect of repercussions and rewards, is establishing repercussions, but also establishing rewards.
Yep.
Setting the prize, letting them know that, hey, you're proud of them for doing ABC.
That's very important. That continues to get you the expectations that you want out the child. Because all kids, like we said, they're driven through pleasure and pain. So they need that pleasure piece. Not often, because you got to remember, you are setting and developing behavior. So you don't want them to develop the behavior of, okay, I did this, what am I going to get? You don't want to develop that behavior either. But you do want to have a good cadence, or part of your system is, hey, once a month we're going to go do this. And, you know, periodically you can buy them things that they're asking for, but not too often. Just keep that in mind, because now you can develop the entitlement, or they're doing things that's already expected out of children anyway, right? No, you're supposed to clean your room. You're supposed to follow my directions. I'm not buying you ice cream and a toy just because you cleaned your room every day. Well, I think we can move on to the last step in the discipline system for us, which would be having complete buy-in from the children. And so you mentioned it in part of it when explaining step 3, But this part is you want to have complete buy-in. And so, like we were saying, once you outline steps 1, 2, and 3, now you want to have what I tell parents and when I'm coaching people is have a little meeting, so have a little meeting with the child. Now this meeting can be as soon as 1 year old. If that child knows how to throw stuff on the ground and can understand when you say pick it up, then he's ready to have a little meeting with you, right? So have a little meeting, and in this meeting, it is talking about complete buy-in of this system. You're going over the different protocols. You're going over the routines. You're going over things that you talked about, and now you want to say, do you understand what I'm saying? Right. Okay, so yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
I think that's enough.
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So hopefully we gave some clarity on those final steps, right? Where we talked about repercussion, rewards, having complete buy-in from the children. And, once you set your protocols and different things, you want to make sure that they clearly understand what's expected of them, right? And so, so hopefully this helps. If it did, share with someone else that may need this information. Like, subscribe. Leave us a comment, and we look forward to coming back with another conversation to help you along your parenting journey. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.